Hi. It's been a while, I know. I lost some vision in my left eye, and since then it's been quite awkward to make a comeback. So I haven't been much on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else really for quite a while. I've potted around on Instagram. I have a lot more vision in my left eye now, and I've been asked to continue my readings. I'll be reading from the Kindle version, mainly because I can adjust the size of the font. 6 hours of flight time in a retrofitted drone aircraft had somehow gone wrong. The large drone was repurposed as a single-person carrier with limited cargo space. The parachute pack had been redesigned to fit below the back on top of the legs. It was a very cramped flight with barely enough room for a human to lie down. Generally, the passengers slept with their gear stored in a separate bag. The autonomous flight was set on the ground long before the aircraft drone took off. Human interaction was rarely, if ever, needed. Something had gone wrong with the directional controls, and it had gone vastly off course. Now, most of the electronics began to die. Eventually, the abort switch had been hit hundreds of miles away as the drone began to fail. Less than a minute after he had been woken from his deep sleep cycle, Ardamin was dropped from the drone. 6 seconds later, his gear followed. 6 seconds after that, the fuel tank should have dropped, but that didn't happen. 3 seconds after the gear dropped, the aircraft exploded. 2 parachutes opened. Ardamin was lucky as his parachute opened and he began to guide himself. A few seconds later, the drone exploded. He had to steer away from the debris field, but the second chute wasn't so lucky. The second parachute, with most of his gear, was hit by a part of the wing and had crashed to the earth. Ardamin guided his parachute to where the impacted gear had landed. He salvaged what he could. His weapons were trashed. 2 guns, a rifle, and his sword. All were either bent or broken, as was most of his water and food. Most importantly of all, the radio. He picked up the box, examined it, and dropped the box back into his gear bag. He knew that before long, the explosion and his subsequent landing would have garnered attention. He checked his small dagger in his boot. It was safely sheathed into the pocket he made for it. He took out his combat knife from the salvaged gear and checked it before inserting it into the scabbard on his web belt. Wishing he hadn't to save room by stowing all his gear, he patted his empty pistol holder. He felt naked without his Smith & Wesson MP45. He placed 2 water bottles into his belt. The rest were cracked and leaking. Feeling rather depressed, he grabbed the machete, the remaining ration packs, and sundry survival gear, placing them into his pack. He wouldn't have minded losing his guns if his katana wasn't bent like a boomerang. Ardamin looked up. 3 small vehicles were approaching. They looked like motorbikes. He couldn't see anything else approaching, but he knew it wouldn't be long before others arrived. He moved away from the bag and his broken gear, hoping that the arriving cycles, he could clearly see now that they were motorcycles, would go for the gear first, and then the man. They altered course as they got nearer, ignoring the bag. Smart. They knew that the camouflaged man could quickly disappear out here in the wild. Ardamin cursed under his breath, hoping he could avoid altercation and blend into the surrounding wasteland, but that seemed unlikely. He also hoped that perhaps they were benevolent, helpful people, but something was tickling his mind, preparing him for battle. Within a few minutes of his landing, they were closing in on him. They had to be based close, or he was unlucky and they were passing by. He doubted that. 3 large men got off their quiet motorbikes. They must either be electronic or petrol hybrid technology, Ardamin thought. They were armed, of course. You had to be armed to survive in this world. The 2 larger men were holding semi-automatic pistol, with the smaller of the 3 carrying a snub-nosed pistol. They walked the short distance between their bikes and the now standing Ardamin through the small shrubs and sand. So I'll leave it here. I don't want these videos to be too long. Give it a like if you liked it. If not, sorry, but I'll give you more next time. That's it from me. Bye. Jeepers, learn to read, Ross. Hey? Sorry. I struggled to get through that sentence. I apologise.